When burnout is viewed as an individual weakness, then turnover just sort of becomes this inevitable thing. And then suddenly your supervisors, or maybe it's your senior leadership team, nobody owns it, right? It's just sort of out there. It's this reality. Well, some people are cut for this work and some people aren't. I don't want to step on too many toes, but I want to challenge that and say, no, I think that's completely off in the perspective. If we're too busy to coach, we are setting ourselves up to just be having so much more time-consuming corrective action plans than if we are much more proactive. And if your supervisors are not being proactive, then the only other thing they can be is reactive. There's the job expectations, like what the boss wants you to do, but then there's the expectations that are happening on the ground. If those are not in alignment, that's a major red flag, and it will definitely burn through people very, very quickly. Welcome to IDD Leader, where human services leaders grow their impact, lead with heart, and build the workplaces our field deserves. I'm your host, Nate Beers. Let's dive in. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Well, I love the holidays, but it also, for many people, is the most stressful time of the year. And those little cracks in the foundation where burnout's been creeping in, it can go from a few cracks in the foundation to completely crumbling things this time of the year. And so that's why today's episode, I'm taking a quick break from interviewing guests, which I actually have already got more interviews in the pipeline. Some of them already completed. I can't wait for those episodes to release. But today, you've got just me. I just finished recording the episode. I think you're going to gain a lot from it. The 7 quiet danger signs that your supervisors are burning out their staff. This is one of those things that can fly under the radar until it's too late. And then it fuels that vicious cycle of high churn on the front end where not very many employees that get hired make it to the first year mark. And then the few that are there, they're like the backbone of your organization. But they're also teetering on the edge of complete burnout. And I want to help you stop that cycle completely. And that's what today's episode is all about. At the end of the episode, I give the full scoop on this, but I'm right now developing something I'm so excited to announce to you. It's called the Leadership Lab. This is an implementation cohort or group of supervisors across multiple organizations. It's training, it's community, it's accountability, and it's practice. What I've seen is that most supervisors were never trained to lead. They were good with the guys or good with the gals, and they got promoted. They weren't trained on how to lead. But there's actually specific skills when it comes to managing team dynamics, when it comes to initiating a difficult conversation, when it comes to just being skillful at quick check-ins. Man, a lot of pain can be solved with just having quick check-ins with your staff. And so that's what the Leadership Lab was created for, was to help organizations of all different sizes with whatever other supervisor training structure you have in place at your organization. This is meant to come alongside, not to replace it, because it is dialed in, completely dialed in on helping supervisors become better leaders, and they build teams that people never want to leave. And in the process, it saves you hundreds of headaches and thousands of dollars. So you can check that out at iddleader.com/leadership. And you can get all the scoop there. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone that wants to learn more about it or would like to really kind of seriously consider it for your organization. So, all right, let's just get right into the episode from here. Let me take you back to a memory of yours. It may have happened last week or it may have happened several decades ago. Do you remember your first major holiday at your in-laws or your future in-laws? Maybe they're your ex-in-laws now. Maybe it was a relationship that never even lasted, so there was no marriage involved. But you went and did a major holiday at someone else's family gathering. Now, I'm not going to name any names when I think about my own experience with this between my wife and I, but let's just say one of our families had some extra formalities around a certain major holiday than the other one. And so you probably remember this, but you like the food is served, everyone's there. You like go to grab a plate, someone gives you a look like, hello, the prayer moment didn't happen, or the holiday toast with sparkling cider hasn't happened yet. And then you step back quickly. Oh, yeah, okay. Like, you're just trying to figure out what to do. Now, hopefully your significant other, they were, dropping you little hints along the way. Like, okay, hold on. This is when such and such happens. This is when we give out the Christmas gifts at Thanksgiving, but you can't just take the gift. There's not just a name on the gift. You have to solve a riddle in order to claim the gift. The riddle says both who it's to and who it's from. And this process might take several hours. Again, that's could be a made up example or could not be, but to protect the innocent, I won't say. In any case, there's so many moments when you're trying to figure out how does this family do things? And when they don't do it the way that you're used to, it can often feel kind of like wrong or bad, different at the very least. If you're used to the fine china and then they're bringing out paper plates and plasticware, it's kind of like, oh, you got shortchanged on your holiday. And then if you're used to the paper plates and the Dixie cups, and all of a sudden there's fine china and fancy crystal glasses, you might feel like, wow, everything's so uptight around here. Why am I sharing all this? Well, it gets at, obviously, culture and norms and practices. But where I'm headed with this is that there are 7 quiet danger signs that your supervisors are burning out their teams. And this story directly relates to one of them. Now, before I dive into these different quiet danger signs, I just want to preface it by saying, of course, every organization has culture. And on the one hand, we want to, respect culture, and it does not need to be the same everywhere you go. But there are definitely cultures that are healthier or less healthy. And if you can just think back to some family gatherings and everyone's reaction when someone sat in Uncle Fred's chair, you know that there's different dances we do in our relationships. But when supervisors are not doing certain things or are doing certain things, it actually leads to increased burnover, leads to increased, did I say burnover? Turnover and burnout. And actually, that's a nice new word. I think I can start to use that. Instead of saying both words, we're just going to say burnover. Okay, you heard it here first. But the more that these 7 quiet danger signs are happening in your organization, the more likely you are experiencing that vicious cycle of high vacancy, lots of turnover and churn, especially in the first 90 days, first 6 months. And I want to help you get out of that vicious cycle, out of that churn. So let's just go right through these, and I'll point to some solutions along the way. And hopefully you'll find this to be very, very helpful. And really just trying to get some things unstuck that might be a little bit stuck. So here we go. Let's go for this. The first danger sign, we'll just start right with the holiday one, is that staff learn expectations through gossip instead of their supervisor. See, it really matters. If there's a message that says, well, you just got to go figure it out. If you're saying to people that are new there, again, this is not always said out loud. This is sometimes like that unwritten, unspoken thing. But if the message is go figure it out, what you're actually doing is you're saying go burn out. A sign that this is happening would be that staff are saying things like, well, that depends on who you ask. Or if there's 2 ways of doing things, like this is the way we do things when the supervisor's around, but then this other way is the way we really do things because the supervisor's not around that much. I've seen this firsthand. It is really, really devastating to a team. That team was always burning through staff because staff were never clear on what to do or the right way to do things, or there was a mixed message about it. But they're learning the expectations. And let me clarify one more thing about this. When I say expectations, there's the job expectations, like what the boss wants you to do, but then there's the expectations that are happening on the ground. If those are not in alignment, that's actually like a major red flag. Let the sirens be sounding, kind of an alarm, because that is not good, and it will definitely burn through people very, very quickly. Also could probably lead to some compliance issues and things like that. But so the first danger sign is staff learn expectations through gossip instead of their supervisor. But here's how you fix it: is you provide clear, behavior-based expectations and consistent follow-through. And that second part is very crucial: consistent follow-through. All right, what's another danger sign? A quiet danger sign is that supervisors go days without meaningful one-to-one connection with each direct report. Now, I'm gonna stand on the soapbox for a moment here. If you have set up your supervisors where they are overseeing 15 to 20 staff across 3 different locations, in many ways that is a setup to fail. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done altogether. There may still be ways to do it. But the strongest and healthiest organizations usually cap out the number of direct reports at less than that number by a little bit anyway. Or if they do have a high number, they're not spread out between lots of different locations. And there's a really simple reason as to why. People need direct touch points and feedback on a regular basis to perform their best. It's that simple. When people feel invested in and they feel connected to, they are so much less likely to leave their job, yes, but they're so much more likely as well to perform well. And that is absolutely a crucial component. If you hear things like, I only ever hear from them when I do something wrong, or I only ever hear from them whenever there's a new policy change, that's a warning sign. That's telling you things are not what they could be. The difference between that and a truly winning team is that with winning teams, supervisors have a lot of ongoing contact with direct reports. They have the pulse of the people. They're in touch with what's happening. They can make quick adjustments and changes. And they understand that Sarah had a really stressful morning with what happened in her family. And so she needs to be cut a little bit of slack. But they also would know if Sarah's been late by 5 minutes 3 times in a row, and they don't have to wait for some big blow up to start addressing things because they're in touch with what's going on. No, they're not going to know every detail of everybody's lives, but they will be present and observing the staff doing the work. The goal of a supervisor fundamentally is to kind of replicate themselves, the best practices, and to ensure that it's happening. There's no way to ensure it's happening if there's not regular ongoing observation and face-to-face touch points. Okay. The third quiet danger sign that your supervisors are burning out their teams is that new staff hardly see their supervisor at all during the first 72 hours. Listen, a cold start is a sign of a cold culture. If new hires are only shadowing with whoever's available and it's not intentionally done and it's not their leader, then that's something that can get fixed and corrected right away. I strongly recommend supervisor-led first week rituals. When someone new comes on the team, I want to be the first one to welcome them, to get to know them a little bit, and to really start to just over and over again communicate, I care about you. This is what we do here. This is what's expected. You're being successful when you do X, Y, and Z. And have that deep belief in them. And that as long as you're with us, we want to move your career forward. We understand that you're here for a job, but I want you to see a place for yourself here in 10 years. And let's start to figure out what a runway looks like, for a career runway looks like for you here. These kinds of messages, when those are being spoken and communicated, it's entirely different. And it can reverse that pretty quickly. If right now the norm is that, like, oh, they go through this big process with HR and then with their trainings and getting all the compliance stuff done, and there's not a lot of that touch points, you're missing out on something that could really help to retain more of that early churning staff. And I highly recommend it. Okay. The next one, I think we're up to number 4 if I'm not mistaken, is that supervisors say they're too busy to coach and they only correct after crises. This is a basic behavioral principle, but delayed correction, it leads to staff stress, inconsistent care, and a whole lot of unnecessary drama. App makers on our phones, they understand this very well. There's a reason why my 1-year-old can start to navigate my phone. Now, don't attack me as a parent. It's not like I'm giving them the phone all the time. And yes, they could accidentally delete things very easily. Not that I'm saying that has or hasn't happened. But what do app makers know? They know that you need immediate feedback. Immediately things change in the environment when you start touching or moving things on the phone. And if you're not doing it right, there's little wiggles, or the phone screen will do a little thing, or a certain button might highlight. All of a sudden it starts glowing behind it. It's the same when it comes to supervising or managing people. If we're too busy to coach, we are setting ourselves up to just be having so much more time consuming corrective action plans, corrective um, conversations that are a lot less pleasant than if we are much more proactive. And if your supervisors are not being proactive, then the only other thing they can be is reactive. So if corrective feedback is always late or rushed or it's emotionally loaded, that is a sign that this is happening. This danger sign is happening at your organization. And what can you do to fix it? It's actually a lot easier than than other types of fixes, which is you just start to build in micro coaching, 60 seconds of praise, a 30-second just little micro correction. Hey, I need you to do this little thing differently. And you do it quick and frequently. And then it's not a big deal. Think about it like a batting coach who's watching you do your swing. Do you want to take 100 swings and then hear something that you should have been doing differently after the first swing? Or do you want to play through 20 baseball games and then your coach says, oh, by the way, you need to drop your shoulder or swing your hip or whatever it is that batting coaches tell hitters to do differently? No, you need to hear that right away. And that's how it is with that frontline staff. They just need to hear it right away. Again, in the context of being rooted for, where it's emotionally safe and these kinds of things. Not like just swooping in to correct all the time, but that frequent feedback and two-way communication. Yeah, if you're too busy to coach, big problems, but so solvable. Okay, I think we're up to, where are we? Number 5 now, I think. Supervisors, and I kind of touched on this, but supervisors avoid conflict until it explodes. Ooh, this one definitely is cringeworthy. Unaddressed tension corrodes team morale quietly but aggressively. Let me say that again. Unaddressed tension corrodes team morale quietly but aggressively. If there's a skill you got to learn as a supervisor, and if there's a skill you need to make sure your supervisors know, it is how to address conflict, how to address difficult conversations. Now, in a different episode, which I'll try to remember to put in the show notes, I do address that more explicitly. I have a whole framework and tool that I use. I walk people through this. Actually, I just walked through some supervisors through this in a training course I was doing, and I'm shifting that over now to what I'm calling the Leadership Lab. This is a place where it's going to launch early 2026. So depending on when you're listening to this, it either will launch soon or it already has launched. But it's a place where supervisors across multiple agencies, they get a combination of training, community, coaching, and accountability to grow their skills as when it comes to leading people. It's all about growing those skills, and really, it's to save you as an organizational leader hundreds and hundreds of headaches, and quite frankly, thousands and thousands of dollars. But there's a framework I teach in there. I'll just kind of hint at it here. Teaching people to lead with a question, but to not wait a week or 2 or 4 months to have that conversation, but leading with the question, hey, help me understand, what was your experience of, and then bring up the thing that happened. That is a great way to get things rolling. Listen, if you're seeing clicks, side conversations, sudden resignations that seem like they just kind of came out of nowhere, those are signs that you've got supervisors at your organization who are avoiding conflict. And again, the fix on this would be to empower them with some simple conflict scripts and some confidence building practice. That's why I do role plays inside the Leadership Lab. It's not just information, it's implementation, where there is a practice element, because this isn't something that comes naturally to most people, right? If it's uncomfortable to tell someone what's up, or if it's not uncomfortable for you, then it's definitely comfortable for them because you're probably just really good at unloading on people. But what I'm saying is supervisors need to learn this skill, whether they're on the highly avoidant side, or even, which I'm mostly been talking about, or even if they're on kind of the highly confrontational side, then it's actually the skills of toning it down, of leading with questions, of creating safe space for staff. But either extreme that they might lean towards, and most people do lean towards one of those two extremes, supervisors need to get coached and practice these skills. And when they do, it is transformative, because all of a sudden, all these things that have been getting brushed under the rug, the white elephant, or excuse me, the purple elephant. This is not Christmas exchange. The purple elephant in the room gets talked about. The stuff gets swept back out from under the carpet and gets dealt with, and the team can function at such a higher level. And in the end, the quality of care goes up because staff trust each other. They trust their supervisor. And that's the reality that's waiting for you on the other side of addressing these if they're not currently being addressed. And hopefully they are at your organization. This is just encouragement. Keep it up. It's working. Keep going. All right, we got 2 left. Number 6, supervisors don't celebrate progress, only completion. In our work, especially working with people, in this field, we're working with people. Most of the changes that we see are not like all of a sudden. It's not like, oh, we closed the sale. It's like we're trying to help someone with their health outcome to get better. We're trying to help someone with their behavioral outcome. We're trying to help someone get that. There can be some special moments. Maybe they got that competitive employment or whatever. But so many of these are very incremental. And so progress is the fuel for motivation. And when employees are only hearing good job after the big tasks or after the big win, whether it's their win or the individual being served win, then they're likely to disengage because they're too far in between those to be sustaining throughout. So instead, supervisors need to be recognizing their staff with all the small steps. It's this kind of behavioral concept that's called shaping behavior, which is we kind of naturally know to do this with, all kinds of things, whether it's learning to drive or potty training a toddler. That when they start to take a small step in the right direction, they sat on that the little kiddie potty, or they managed to navigate the slow stop in the parking lot. They're one of their first times behind the wheel. They're in an empty parking lot, and instead of having it be a jolty stop whenever they hit the brake, they kind of actually let on the brake a little bit more gently to have a more smooth ride. And what do? We praise them. Hey, good job. You're learning the feel for this car. Yay, honey, good job. You sat on the potty. These are things that we know about, but it's so crucial to do them with when the supervisors are doing them at your organization with that frontline staff. And frankly, it's important that your supervisors are hearing this too. I mean, you can apply literally everything I'm saying to the next level of leadership, that your managers or that your leadership team is praising the incremental steps of the supervisors or managers as they're starting to address things more quickly, as they're starting to take their own steps of progress. But really, the key here is having some templates and some regular check-ins, asking about how progress is going towards things, and then celebrating what the other person says back. That it's as simple as that, but you really have to almost kind of create checklists or templates to make that happen. Typically, it may or may not happen organically, but at least to get it jump started, you're going to want to have a quick way of checking that in or measuring that. All right. Last and certainly not least, and this kind of gets at the heart of the matter. Number 7, quiet danger sign, is that supervisors assume that burnout is a, quote, professional resilience issue, not a workload or leadership driven issue. And this is often it's not necessarily spoken quite explicitly like that. Here's how you're going to hear it. Comments like, well, some people just can't handle this work. Ooh, well, look, that could be true, but if so, that's a bad hire. But most of the time when I've heard comments like that, actually what's happening is it's not that some people just can't handle this kind of work. It's that, we didn't set them up for success. And so when burnout is viewed as an individual weakness, then turnover just sort of becomes this inevitable thing. And then suddenly your supervisors, or maybe it's your senior leadership team, nobody owns it, right? It's just sort of out there. It's this reality. Well, some people are cut for this work and some people aren't. I guess I don't want to step on too many toes, but I want to challenge that and say, no, I think that's completely off in the perspective, because the vast majority of people can handle this work if they're set up for success. And if they made it to be the point of getting hired and then they couldn't handle it, again, the first thing I'm looking at is, did we really set them up for success? Are we really doing the frequent feedback and touch points? Are we providing the the feedback that's needed? Are we giving them the tools they need to succeed? And anywhere that I'm hearing that mindset, and it quickly kind of creates this us them, and it's sort of the the diehard staff they might be feeling burned out because they've seen the churn for all the staff that come. Oh, we'll see if they're here in 6 months. They've seen that. So I don't blame them for feeling a little bit jaded and feeling like that. That's a very natural feeling to have for staff or for supervisors or even for, for yourself or for higher level leaders. But I don't think it's the right perspective or a healthy perspective. Because we as an organization, or you as the leader that you are in your role, or your frontline supervisor, they can actually enact so much change. We can change this. And really it comes down to, are we thinking about designing a workplace for humans to be set up for success? Ironically, in a person-centered environment where we spend a lot of time thinking about how can we set up the individuals we're serving for success? How can we have this be a person-centered approach? It's about them and what they want, their needs, individualizing it. We actually have to apply those same skills with how we design the jobs and the way we do our staffing and the way that we do the workload balancing, the amount of emotional support that we provide. And listen, you don't need to be some, it's not, you don't have to turn your workplace into a yoga retreat center to have some emotional support. It literally looks like after a difficult day, having a debrief with every team member that was involved. A 5-minute debrief. Wow, that was a little bit of a rough day. How are you guys doing? Let's think for a moment. Is there one thing we could do differently tomorrow or the next time to try to make it less likely that it goes the way it went sideways today? That literally will take 5 to 10 minutes, but it's game-changing. It's transformational. And so, yeah, if your supervisors are chalking it up to this is a personal resilience issue, I would say, no, let's look as a whole team at how can we adjust workload? How can we adjust some structural things? How can we build in more emotional support and recharge moments and transform that thing? All right. Well, I hope that you've found these 7 danger signs to be quite helpful, because fundamentally, I don't want your supervisors to be burning out their teams. And as I mentioned earlier, I am in the process of building it right now. Enrollment actually is open, but it hasn't quite started yet. It will start early 2026. But the Leadership Lab, if you want to learn more about that, you absolutely can check it out on the website. But believe it or not, I've actually built a tool based around the same thing that I'm talking about today. It is called the 7 Quiet Danger Signs Your Supervisors Are Burning Out Their Teams. So if you resonated with today's episode, please, please, please check it out. You can download it for free. You can get all the main points of content that I talked about today. All you need to do is go to iddleader.com/burnout, and you can download it for free right there. And I guess I almost forgot this. Look at me. I almost forgot. I tried to leave you with one action item. That would be your action item. What action move can you take? It would be to download this so that you can reflect on which one of these danger signs, or many of them, is your agency seeing. And by all means, then, take the next move. Do something about it. There is so much that can be done. And that's the whole point of the Leadership Lab, is to support an organization with whatever structure they have in place around training the frontline supervisors. This does not replace that, but is to come alongside and say, listen, there's one thing that this is me, Nate Beer speaking. There's one thing I do really, really well, and it's help teach frontline supervisors or even higher level leaders, but how to do all the things we just talked about today. We provide clear definitions on what success looks like. We practice the skill, and then people grow in it, and it's transformational. So I want to help you in that journey. But yeah, I don't even know if that was a very clear one action step, but I think you get the idea. There's a couple really clear next steps that you can take, and I am absolutely here to try to support you every step along the way of that journey. So I am so happy about the many, many great stories I'm hearing from around our country. If you ever want to reach out to me, of course, you're more than welcome to do that. I love hearing the different stories of what's going on. And until next time, here's to you. Keep up the amazing work.